Hey, before we begin tonight, I wanted to share a quick note with you. My name is Manny, I'm one of the team members and producers behind the channel. Owen Thorne, the familiar voice you've come to know and trust, will be stepping away starting next week to begin a new chapter of his own. Owen asked me to thank you sincerely for letting his voice be a part of your evenings, your rest, and your peace. The stories will continue, just with a new voice to guide you.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, a sanctuary of rest and comfort. You have arrived here seeking solace, a calming presence to guide you toward the gentle arms of sleep. In the moments that lie ahead, you will be led through a Memorial Day reflection in a quiet countryside, a peaceful reverie where rolling hills and soft breezes invite you to ease into tranquility. Before this journey begins, take a moment to settle your body. Nestle your head against a pillow or a supportive surface, and breathe in softly through your nose. Allow this breath to fill your lungs with nourishing calm, then exhale at a leisurely pace, letting go of any tension, any lingering concerns, or any weight you might carry. Feel your eyelids grow heavier with each breath you take. Notice the slow, gentle rise and fall of your chest, a serene rhythm that calls you deeper into relaxation. Sink a little more into your cushion or mattress, letting every muscle loosen, unravel, and rest. Perhaps your shoulders slide down from your ears, releasing the day's burdens. Your spine settles into a position of ease, and the light in your mind grows softer, like twilight descending over a quiet meadow. In this sanctuary, there is no rush or worry. Here, you are free to drift. And now, let us embark on this soothing countryside tale, drifting gently from your perspective into a simpler, more distant third-person narrative, allowing you to remain quiet, still, and observant as the story unfolds around you. On a gentle slope of rolling farmland, in the hush of early dawn, a figure named Avery stirred in a modest farmhouse. The windows were open, welcoming the soft chorus of birds and the faint perfume of dewy grass. This was a peaceful countryside, a place where days unspooled in an unhurried flow, and especially on Memorial Day morning, the air itself seemed imbued with reflective grace. A thin layer of fog clung to the distant fields, weaving around tall grass and blanketing the worn fence posts. Somewhere, beyond the light mist, a single red barn stood, paint faded yet sturdy, a silent sentinel overseeing the farmland's quiet rhythms. Avery rose without haste, setting bare feet onto the creaking floor. The boards, worn and warm beneath the soles, felt comforting, an unspoken welcome to the day. Outside, the sky lightened by degrees, clouds drifting in pastel pinks and gentle oranges. Over time, the softly glowing sun would peak above the horizon, illuminating the old trees that framed the farmhouse. In those early hours, the world felt like a secret, gently unveiling itself to Avery's calm gaze. A single thought of gratitude passed through their mind, a recognition of all that had come before, of the day's significance in honoring memory and sacrifice, and of the unwavering gift of a new morning. The air inside the farmhouse was mild, carrying the fragrance of chamomile tea leaves from the night before. Tucked beside a small window, a broad wooden table was set with a simple arrangement: a teapot, a delicate porcelain cup, and a small dish of fresh honey. The moment Avery's hands reached around the teapot, warmth spread from palms to fingertips, as though the gentle heat of the tea was luring them into a sense of quiet presence. Steam curled lazily into the air, soft ribbons of comfort. As they brewed the tea, the faint rustle of leaves outside continued, a nature lullaby that made time move slower, encouraging reflection. Once Avery sipped the first taste of chamomile, they paused, letting the liquid warmth remind them of the memories woven into this holiday. On the small shelf above the table sat an old photograph, edges yellowed, capturing a family gathering from years gone by. It was a gentle scene, a snapshot of laughter and closeness, now preserved in timeless black and white. The memory swayed softly in Avery's mind, but instead of bringing sadness, it filled them with a gentle appreciation for the continuity of life, for the cycle that merges past and present. The teacup returned to the saucer with a muffled clink. When the sun finally emerged in earnest, Avery stepped onto the farmhouse porch. A long stretch of farmland lay beyond, dotted with patches of wildflowers and tall grasses dancing in the breeze. The dew still shimmered, each blade of grass crowned with a tiny droplet reflecting the early morning light. Wrens and robins filled the sky with bird calls that overlapped in joyful harmony. A sense of calm wonder bathed the moment, like a melodic hush that encircled the land. Memorial Day had dawned, and with it came a time of gentle reflection, a peaceful invitation to remember, to honor, and to slow down enough to see the quiet gifts that everyday life often hides. Further down the porch, an old rocking chair waited, its seat smooth from years of use. Avery sat, the chair's soft squeak blending with the hush of the countryside. As they rocked back and forth, a line of tall oak trees caught the sun's first strong rays. Their leaves, vibrant and green, fluttered in a welcoming sway, reminding Avery of everything that had grown here. The farmland extended beyond the mine's reach, a patchwork of fields that had nurtured crops for generations. Nearby, a wooden fence ran along the boundary, and above it, gentle hills rose and fell like a contented sigh. After a time, Avery stood and walked down the porch steps to an old gravel path leading away from the house. Each step crunched softly underfoot. The path meandered between tall grasses and daisies, bending in a gradual arc until it vanished into a cluster of elm and maple trees. Through these trees, the morning sunlight filtered in shifting patterns, a slow dance of brightness and shadow. The crisp air carried a hint of the day's warmth to come, but for now, it remained refreshing, a delicate brush against Avery's skin. Bees buzzed among blossoms, their wings shimmering in gentle arcs, as if nature itself were reminding Avery of the persistent hum of life. Beyond the tree cluster, the land opened up to a modest clearing. At the clearing's edge stood a small stone memorial, a simple structure etched with names and a short dedication. Every year on Memorial Day, villagers from the nearby town would come here, placing wildflowers at the base to honor the legacy left behind by those who had come before. Although there were no crowds now, a few freshly gathered daisies and lilies lay across the stone, each one a silent token of remembrance. Avery paused, letting the hush of the clearing settle around them. In that quiet, it felt as though the land itself stood still out of respect, acknowledging stories of past lives with a tender hush. Minutes passed in gentle reflection. Avery closed their eyes and breathed deeply, inhaling the scent of wild blossoms and the damp earth beneath the grass. The body felt light, almost floating on the reverence that filled this open space. Thoughts drifted like soft clouds overhead, memories of resilience, reflections on the cyclical nature of life, gratitude for the present moment. When the eyes opened again, the sight of the farmland in the distance was warm and inviting. Sunlight spilled over the fields, highlighting the neat rows of crops soon to emerge from the soil. A sense of hope resonated within Avery, a soothing reminder that life continues to grow and flourish, even under the silent watch of those memorial stones. Gently turning back, Avery made their way toward a winding path that led to a nearby creek. The route was flanked by tall stalks of grass, some so high they brushed softly against Avery's elbows. Tiny insects darted among the stems, weaving a tapestry of miniature, wondrous life. The soft trickle of water grew clearer, accompanied by the sweet melody of birds perched in the branches overhead. Sunbeams danced on the creek's surface, creating patches of light that shimmered like fragments of morning starlight. As Avery approached the water's edge, they crouched down, trailing a fingertip across the surface. The creek responded with a delicate ripple, as though greeting a friend in the quiet hours of the day. A gentle wind stirred, rustling leaves and carrying the faint scent of lilacs from a cluster of shrubs farther upstream. Nature seemed at perfect peace, offering a subtle lullaby that coaxed any lingering tension away. Avery found a smooth rock near the creek bed and took a seat, letting the mild warmth of the stone permeate through. Soft memories rose again, kind recollections of childhood or of wise elders once present during Memorial Day gatherings. Each memory arrived like a gentle wave, washing over the mind with softness rather than sorrow. There was space here for both reflection and gratitude, a peaceful coexistence that nurtured a calm acceptance of times gone by. Farther upstream, the creek widened into a pool where water lilies occasionally bloomed, white petals resting serenely on the calm surface. Dappled sunlight shimmered through overhead leaves, painting the water with dancing shapes of gold and green. For a while, Avery watched small fish glint near the surface. Their quick, shimmering movements seemed like tiny bursts of joy, adding another layer of quiet wonder to the scene. The hush of the countryside encouraged a languid pace. There was no rush, no sense of urgent demands, only a slow, rolling sense of presence. After lingering by the creek, Avery rose with gentle intention and wandered a bit farther into the countryside. The path led past weathered fence posts, wound with vines, and onto an open field where a single oak tree spread its mighty branches. This old oak had stood for decades, perhaps centuries, its trunk thick and sturdy, its leaves abundant in a lush canopy overhead. A simple rope swing hung from one of the lower limbs, swaying gently in the light breeze. The worn wooden seat carried the marks of laughter and joy from seasons long ago. Avery approached, running a hand along the rope, imagining the children who once soared beneath these branches, their laughter echoing in the summer air. At the base of the oak, the grass was thick and soft, perfect for sitting or even reclining in the shade. Avery settled there, leaning back against the broad trunk. The bark felt sturdy, yet comforting. Gently, the leaves whispered above, as if recounting tales of seasons past, of storms weathered and sunlight savored, of generations who found solace under these outstretched arms. Looking upward, Avery saw patches of sky peeking through the leaves, pale blue merging with leafy green in a soft mosaic. In that moment, the mind quieted, the heart slowed, and a serene acceptance of the present folded around everything. In the distance, farmland stretched out, dotted with fences and the occasional figure tending to crops. A sense of steady labor lingered in the air, though it did not intrude upon the stillness. Each person here was part of an unspoken rhythm, the land providing nourishment, and the people caring for the land with reverence. Sometimes, a tractor's hum traveled gently across the fields. At other times, only the breeze made its subtle conversation with the grasses. Memorial Day in this countryside was not marked by large crowds or boisterous parades, but by personal reflection, quiet gathering, and the shared respect for the memories that shaped each new day. As the morning advanced, Avery felt drawn toward a cluster of wildflowers growing near a small orchard. The apple and pear trees had begun bearing blossoms weeks before, and now tiny fruits appeared where blossoms once were. The orchard exuded a tender energy, as if celebrating the abundance of spring. Light filtered through the new leaves, casting delicate patterns on the ground, each shifting shape gently guiding the eye like a slow, graceful dance. Quietly, Avery moved among the trees, pausing to examine a pink apple blossom clinging to a branch, its petals soft as silk. The orchard smelled faintly sweet, fresh leaves mingling with the fertile scent of damp soil. A few bees hovered around the remaining blossoms, their industrious buzzing a soothing counterpoint to the orchard's hush. Every element seemed to fit together like a gentle tapestry: sunlight, blossoms, pollinators, and the tender fruit forming on each branch. Avery lingered, absorbing the orchard's serenity, thinking of how each piece of nature finds its purpose in a harmonious whole. It reminded them of the broader purpose of Memorial Day, a reverence for connections across time, for the sacrifices made that allow each individual to savor quiet wonders like these. Eventually, the path meandered toward a gentle slope leading up to a grassy hillside. A little bench, slightly weathered, waited at the top of the rise, offering a sweeping view of the farmland below. Avery climbed slowly, letting the heart match the patient rhythm of each step. The sun, now higher in the sky, cast the farmland in bright, welcoming light. When Avery reached the bench and sat down, a mild breeze played across the brow. From here, the house seemed small yet inviting. The barn's weathered red paint catching glints of sunlight, the creek winding like a silver ribbon through the green patchwork of fields. At the horizon's edge, distant hills greeted the sky in rolling curves. Each inhalation drew in the countryside's gentle aura, a mixture of grassy warmth and the distant scent of wild mint. Each exhalation released the weight of the past days, clearing space for calm reflection. Here, time felt as open as the land itself, free from hurried schedules or pressing demands. Avery let a quiet gratitude seep in, acknowledging the blessings of safety memory and renewal that flourished in this rural haven. Even as Memorial Day carried with it traces of wistfulness, it also shone with the promise of continued growth, much like the fields below, patiently awaiting the next harvest. Feeling the warmth of the sun on their face, Avery closed their eyes, and within that darkness, gentle images formed. A handful of wildflowers laid on the memorial stone, an evening sky painted in hues of pink and gold, a table set for a quiet meal in the farmhouse. Each vision seemed to float gently in the mind, like lanterns on a still lake, drifting without urgency. There was no rush to grasp or hold them. They simply existed, reflections of a life woven with remembrance and gentle everyday joys. As the afternoon unfurled, the air grew slightly warmer, and a soft flutter of wind guided Avery back to the farmhouse. Along the way, they noticed a tiny rabbit nibbling at clover near the fence line. Upon seeing Avery, the rabbit froze, ears perked, nose twitching in quick, curious movements. For a moment, the two regarded each other in stillness, sharing a fragile space of mutual wonder, until the rabbit hopped away into the grass, disappearing like a soft whisper. The presence of this small creature added another note to the countryside's lullaby, reminding Avery of nature's quiet perseverance. Once home, Avery prepared a simple midday meal: fresh bread, a bit of cheese, some ripe strawberries from a patch near the orchard. They carried the meal to the porch, where the rocking chair awaited. The breeze had shifted slightly, now carrying the gentle, earthy scent of distant farmland. Nearby, a wind chime made of driftwood tinkled softly, its muted melody blending seamlessly with the bird calls and the distant rustle of leaves. As Avery nibbled on bread and berries, they allowed each bite to be savored, the flavors unfolding slowly. Thoughts came and went, but none demanded urgent attention. Peace continued to reign in a subtle hush, accompanied by a deepening sense of respect for the day's meaning. Time seemed elastic in this pastoral setting, unspooling gradually under the bright sky. Avery watched a pair of swallows swoop and dive, their slim bodies cutting arcs across the air. Occasionally, they chirped in short bursts, as though calling out playful greetings. Across the field, a lone deer ventured from the tree line, pausing to graze before bounding farther into the meadow. The farmland, though quiet, was teeming with gentle life, each being a reminder that nature continues in its own beautiful rhythms, unaffected by the rush of modern clocks. When the sun neared its apex, Avery ventured inside to prepare a vase of wildflowers for the home. A short walk through the meadow yielded daisies, gentle lavender blooms, and a few bright poppies that swayed in the light breeze. Back in the farmhouse, Avery arranged them with unhurried care, placing each stem so that the blossoms faced outward in a colorful display. Set on the windowsill, they looked out onto the rolling landscape, as if continuing the conversation between inside and outside, between shelter and sky, memory and presence. Afternoon light streamed in, illuminating the warm wooden surfaces of the small home. Dust motes floated in the beams of sunlight, drifting like tiny stars in the quiet interior. Avery trailed fingertips across the weathered shelf that held books of poetry and family albums. Some of these albums told stories of generations that had once farmed this very land. Others showed bright holiday gatherings, children racing across open fields, grandparents chuckling in the shade, and dogs bounding with uncontainable joy. Each photograph was a small piece of a large tapestry, woven through love and time. As the hours slipped away, Avery sensed the gentle approach of dusk, that time of day when shadows lengthen and the sky unveils its softer colors. They decided to revisit the memorial stone in the clearing, one last gesture of respect on Memorial Day. This time, Avery carried a handful of wildflowers, carefully bundled with a simple ribbon. The path seemed to welcome them back, grasses parting with a gentle sigh, leaves overhead murmuring a hushed greeting. The clearing was just as quiet as before, bathed now in the golden glow of late afternoon sunlight. Carefully, Avery placed the small bouquet at the base of the stone, where other flowers had been laid earlier. Standing there, Avery felt the warmth of gratitude swell in their chest. Gratitude not only for the courage and sacrifice remembered on this day, but also for the continuity of life that spans across eras. The farmland, with its cycles of planting and harvest, was like a living testament that each generation sows seeds for the next. This realization brought a sense of soft peace, settling over Avery's heart like a gentle shawl draped around the shoulders. Stepping away from the clearing, Avery slowly returned to the farmhouse to prepare for the evening. The sun dipped lower, leaving long shadows that stretched across the fields like slender ribbons of purple and blue. Bird songs softened into twilight calls, their notes tranquil, yet filled with a restful anticipation. Inside, Avery lit a single lamp, the glow illuminating the interior with a subdued light. An open window let in the evening breeze, which carried the scents of grass, faint, wild mint, and the last sweet traces of the day's sunlight. As the final colors of dusk spread across the sky, a hush settled over the countryside. Clouds softened into pastel shades, rose, lavender, and pale gold, reflecting gently on the windows. Avery prepared a small dinner, a comforting dish of stew, and sat at the table. Each spoonful brought warmth to the body, a soothing end to the day's peaceful wanderings. Occasionally, the wind chime outside offered a gentle note, as though nature wished to share a lullaby before night enveloped the land. Once the meal was finished, Avery tidied up calmly, taking care not to disturb the silence that had grown so tender and profound. A few more minutes were spent on the porch, rocking in the chair as daylight fully gave way to night. Stars began to appear, one here, another there, until the sky was sprinkled with faint twinkles. The farmhouse lantern cast a soft glow on the wooden planks, creating a circle of warmth in the deepening darkness. Crickets started their nighttime chorus, joined by the low croak of a frog near the creek. These comforting sounds seemed to cradle the land, lulling it into a restful slumber. When Avery finally stood and stepped inside, it was with a sense of completeness, as though this day had offered precisely what was needed: reflection, gratitude, and a gentle touch of hope. Later, in the cozy hush of the farmhouse, Avery drifted across the small living space. Curtains fluttered softly near the window, and moonlight seeped in, painting silver shapes on the wooden floor. The bed looked inviting, a place to rest, to gather one's dreams. Slowly, Avery sank onto the mattress, feeling it cradle the body like a loving embrace. The sounds of night floated through the open window, a whisper of wind in the oaks, the distant lull of a creek, the soothing cadence of crickets echoing in the meadow. Closing tired eyes, Avery let the day's memories swirl gently in their mind, dissolving into the softness of the darkness. The warm sense of gratitude remained, quiet and comforting, like a faint glow in the chest. Outside, the farmhouse lights dimmed until only the subtle sheen of moonlight remained. The countryside turned peaceful and still, as though the land itself had curled up under a starry blanket. A hush spread far and wide, weaving through the fields and trees, carrying a solemn, comforting hush for all creatures tucking in for the night. And now, dear traveler, your journey has carried you through rolling farmland and gentle reflections, leading you to this moment of rest. Allow your breath to slow. Let every muscle relax, settling deeper and deeper into a soothing, weightless calm. Feel how the day's passing, with its quiet gratitude and respectful remembrance, gently loosens your thoughts. Inhale softly, carrying that sense of peace deep within. Exhale, and let it all drift away, like the last sliver of sunset disappearing behind the horizon. Drift now in the cradle of night, lullabied by the hush of quiet fields. May your dreams be tranquil and kind. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.